Marcus pressed his calloused palm against his daughter's forehead, feeling the fever burn through her skin like embers, and whispered a prayer he wasn't sure anyone was listening to anymore. The rent was due in 3 days. Lily's medicine cost more than he made in a week at the warehouse. His VA benefits barely covered groceries. He'd sold everything worth selling. His grandfather's watch, his deployment medals, even his truck. Now he walked everywhere, Lily's small hand tucked in his, her laughter the only thing keeping the darkness at bay. But tonight, she wasn't laughing. Tonight, her breath came shallow and fast, and the free clinic wouldn't open until morning. Marcus pulled on his jacket and stepped into the November cold, leaving Lily with Mrs. Chen next door. He had 4 hours before his night shift started. 4 hours to figure out how to buy medicine he couldn't afford. The park was nearly empty at dusk, just shadows and streetlights and the whisper of dead leaves. That's when he saw her. A woman collapsed on a bench, her expensive coat muddied, her face pale as winter sky. Blood seeped through her fingers where she clutched her side. Marcus's combat training kicked in before thought could catch up. He ran to her, knelt down, assessed the wound. Stabbing, maybe a mugging. Fresh within the hour. "Don't move," he said, pulling off his jacket to press against the wound. "I'm calling an ambulance." Her hand shot out and gripped his wrist with surprising strength. "No hospital," she gasped. "Please, they'll find me. Ma'am, you're bleeding out. Listen." Her eyes locked onto his, fierce despite the pain. "I'm not who they think I am. I needed to know, needed to see." She coughed and blood flecked her lips. "Please, just stay, just for a minute. If you believe in kindness, empathy, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us spread more hope and love." Something in her desperation reminded Marcus of the terrified civilians he'd protected overseas, the ones who'd lost everything and had nowhere left to run. He kept pressure on the wound and spoke in the calm voice he'd used in firefights, the one that said everything would be okay even when it wouldn't. "What's your name?" he asked. "Catherine." She smiled weakly. "What's yours?" "Marcus." "You have kind eyes, Marcus. Sad but kind." She studied his face. "You've seen war, Afghanistan, 2 tours, and now?" "Now I'm a dad trying to keep his little girl alive." The words came out before he could stop them. "She's sick. I can't afford her medicine. I can't afford anything anymore." He laughed bitterly. "Here I am saving a stranger when I can't even save my own daughter." Catherine's grip tightened on his wrist. "What if you could?" she whispered. "What if you could save her and others like her?" "Lady, I don't have time for riddles. I'm dying, Marcus." Her voice was clear now, focused. "I can feel it. But I need you to know something." She reached into her coat with her free hand, pulled out a business card smeared with blood. "My name is Catherine Morrison. I'm the CEO of Morrison Pharmaceuticals, and I've spent the last month living on the streets." Marcus stared at her, not understanding. "I wanted to see," she continued, her voice growing weaker, "really see what happens to people who can't afford our medicines. People like your daughter." Tears slid down her temples. "I've been making decisions in boardrooms about profit margins and shareholder value, and I forgot these were people, real people." She pressed something into his palm, a phone, expensive and sleek. "My executive assistant's number is programmed. Call her. Tell her Catherine sent you. Tell her..." She coughed again, harder this time. "Tell her to implement Protocol Mercy. She'll know what it means. I wrote it months ago, but I was too afraid of the board, too afraid of losing everything." "You need a hospital," Marcus insisted, but she shook her head. "I need to know I didn't waste it all. That something I did mattered." Her eyes found his again. "Take care of your daughter, Marcus. And when she's well, because she will be, teach her what you showed me tonight. That kindness doesn't cost anything, but it's worth everything." Marcus finally got his phone out and called 911. He stayed with her, holding her hand, talking to her about Lily's laugh and Mrs. Chen's terrible dumplings and the way the sunrise looked from his apartment window. He talked until the sirens came screaming through the night. Catherine Morrison died 3 days later in the hospital, but not before her lawyers executed her final wishes. Marcus didn't understand at first when the reporters showed up. When the news broke about the billionaire CEO who'd gone undercover and completely restructured her company's pricing model before she died, he didn't understand until the executive assistant called him personally. Ms. Morrison left specific instructions, the woman said, her voice thick with emotion. She established a foundation in your daughter's name, the Morrison Lilly Fund. It covers pediatric medications for families who can't afford them. She wanted you to run it. I'm not qualified. She said you were the most qualified person she'd ever met. She said you understood what it meant to give everything for someone else. The medicine arrived that afternoon, 2 months' supply, completely free, and with it, a handwritten note in Catherine's shaky script. Your kindness saved me when I'd forgotten how to be human. Now let it save others. This is just the beginning. Marcus stood in his tiny apartment holding Lily as her fever finally broke, and understood that Catherine had given him more than medicine. She'd given him purpose. She'd reminded him that the values he'd carried through war, honor, duty, compassion, still mattered in peace. The foundation grew slowly at first. Marcus learned the work, made connections, fought the same bureaucratic battles Catherine must have faced. But every time he handed medication to a desperate parent, every time he saw relief flood a face lined with worry, he remembered that cold November evening and a dying woman who'd chosen truth over comfort. Lily recovered completely. She'd never remember how close they'd come to losing everything, but Marcus made sure she grew up knowing Catherine's story. Not the CEO part, the human part, the part about choosing compassion even when it costs you everything. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that even small acts of kindness can change lives, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories that warm the heart and uplift the soul. Years later, Marcus would take Lily to place flowers at Catherine's grave. They'd stand there quietly, and he'd tell her again about the woman who gave them their second chance, who proved that it's never too late to become the person you were meant to be. Comment below and tell us about a moment when kindness or compassion changed your life. We'd love to hear your story. In the end, Marcus realized that he hadn't saved Catherine that night in the park. She'd already made her choice, already written her redemption. But maybe, in bearing witness to her final act of courage, in carrying forward her legacy of compassion, he'd helped her see that her life had mattered after all, and that sometimes the greatest victories are won not through strength or wealth, but through the simple, sacred act of caring for one another.